Hello, Shahana.
Hi.
Shout out, Shahana and I are just like realizing, oh, we're supposed to be on in now. And our partner in crime, Garry, is not going to be with us today. That's why we don't have that fancy intro. So we are here. And as Shahana just said, we're going to just let the universe do what the universe wants us to do.
I know. I
Yeah,
know. Let's
yeah,
just roll. Yeah.
yeah. So there's so much going on right now,
Yeah.
uh, and we can talk about so many things. So, Shahana, what's weighing on your heart? Right.
A lot. A lot, honestly. And obviously, we cannot. It's 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 impossible to begin without acknowledging the mayhem happening to people, to babies, to children in Gaza. So honestly, I don't have words to say all that needs to be said, and it would probably be even redundant to try. But what I am sensing, and I know you are too, Trina, is that our show is called Hegemony Revealed, and we have been talking about hegemony for the last, verbally expressing it through our show for almost a year now, close to one, discussing it even prior to that. And what is playing out now is is the narrative and all its associated pillars, and everything that bolsters that narrative up, the narrative of hegemony, the capitalism, the extraction, the expropriation, exploitation, the entire military industrial complex, the Western European countries in support of this, and the people in power. And I'm expressly saying the people in power, not the ordinary people. And what is happening, I think, is, it's almost like all the pieces of this narrative, which had been so cleverly hidden and covered up for many, many decades, are being revealed piece at a time. You can literally see all the blocks that construct this narrative now.
Yes,
And
that's
where propaganda was able to hide it again for many decades, propaganda is now spectacularly failing.
mhm.
And so, if our show, it's almost like our show, the name Hegemony Revealed itself was some kind of a clarion call to reveal the hegemony, and it is literally being revealed
It
in a
is.
very painful manner. But
Yeah,
yes,
yes. That's the part I think that everybody's been avoiding as well is that pain. But with everything that is good and with everything that creates growth, there is a aspect of pain of of revealing what's underneath that is necessary. Because if you don't reveal what's underneath, what's caused it, the root, whatever you want to call it, you don't get to that place of healing. You don't get to that place of um, um, comprehension. And even though I am, I've cried several times over this
yeah,
past, month. Um, Sean King on Instagram has been revealing in a very raw way the images of what's happening to the Palestinian people. And though I want to look away, I have looked, um, and I have felt it. And one of the things that's been happening with the majority of my clients, they all feel like this malaise, this rise in anger, and of course that's the goal of the hegemony,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, to create this constant divide. But I can't stress how important it is not to slip into fear and hate, because to me that's just the fuel,
Yeah.
and that's the vehicle that has worked time and time again.
Yeah.
And we all have to do something different, personally and collectively.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the thing that is giving me the most hope, and because we need to stick with hope, is that more and more people around the globe are calling this shit out.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
They're not, the mainstream media is not showing the millions of people
Yes.
in
Yes.
protest all
Yeah.
over the world. You
Yes.
know, they're not showing it because they've been controlling the media narrative and
Yes.
propaganda for so
Yeah.
long. So the West is ridiculous.
Yes.
And more I understand why they were going after TikTok.
Yeah.
They were going after TikTok because
Yeah. And
people
they
are
are on
getting,
Twitter. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they were getting, we're getting the actual footage from the people
Yeah.
on the ground
Yeah.
experiencing this. This is why Israel cut the electricity,
Yeah.
cut the
The
water,
internet. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
internet, because they didn't want the brutality
Yeah.
to be seen. And yeah, I I'm seeing with so much
Yes.
clarity
Yes. Yes. And
I've
what
never
is
seen.
happening? Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And what is happening is this carefully constructed propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation that maintains the hegemony from
Mhm,
inside out and outside in is falling apart even in those countries that are controlling the narrative. And the
mhm,
people, I think this is a spectacular moment in history, and like you said, and I'm following the same, are rising across the globe, ordinary people stepping out of their homes of all ages across the globe in their millions against their own government in those very countries.
that's
And
right.
they're questioning the power, they're questioning the narrative, they're questioning and protesting the support. And what is becoming crystal clear is the divide between this hegemonic power holders and the ordinary people across all countries,
Mhm, that's right.
even in their own countries.
Right.
And
The
there's
U.S.
a,
we've been fed
I
up for a long time.
I know. I mean, we have known for a long time, but it's the very countries this emanates from who are waking up to out of their propagandized haze. We have
Mhm,
known for a long time. We, the colonized and the ruled and the quote unquote global south, have known for a very long time about the narrative and the hegemony. But it has been tough to hold up the mirror. But what is happening in Palestine and the unflinching support it's receiving
mm.
is nothing to do with and Jews have called it out. It has nothing to do with
Yes,
Judaism.
yes,
Absolutely nothing. It is a
right.
completely colonial settler program of
Exactly.
appropriating a land that doesn't belong.
Yeah. And
And
the thing is what is fine, what I find interesting too is this, the every step that for the West has done in their own countries, rewriting history, um, making uh, 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 um, making themselves the victim
Yeah,
rather
always,
than,
always.
than the oppressor is being seen so like blatantly, you know,
Yes, yes,
the psychopathic
yeah.
narcissism.
I mean, people of our skin color, we have been labeled either rebels, resistance,
Terrorists.
terrorists,
Yeah.
savages, heathens, anything and
Mm,
everything to delegitimize and unsee those voices. And now that is no longer being made possible.
mhm.
And
It,
Palestine is almost like the symbol of the last cover, and which is now ripped off, and the emperor is so naked. Oh my
mm,
god, the emperor is starkly naked.
yes, and the thing is there's been protests in Israel by the Jews, who they
Yes,
called in, you know, to occupied land, and made
yes,
promises to, um, you know, it is it is amazing. I have a lot of Jewish friends. I have my son is half Jewish,
yeah,
so their automatic response is so ridiculous, calling people anti-Semitic. And now I see where we need to start questioning all those who call other people anti-Semitic just for
yeah,
saying you, which is the truth, you have occupied a land for 75 years that you
yes,
you make false claims to.
yes,
Palestine during its height was a multicultural city
yes. One
that
of the richest in culture.
exactly which people from Islam, Christianity, and Judaism lived together for
Yes,
centuries. But the part they always try to leave out is that the Jews of those areas was the least, like
yeah,
3% of the
yeah,
population, and everybody got along. Nobody was attacking those Jews and trying to oppress them or anything. But if you bring up the history as it actually is, not this made up fairy tale done
exactly.
by the Zionists to promote their agenda, a lot of people don't even understand where Zionism came from, and they
It's a created thing by the colonialist settler colonialism. I mean, see, the
to
whole of
your point.
America, it's an European thing. The whole of America is a settler colonial country.
That's right.
They went, they killed the natives, they grabbed their riches, and they built their country. Great, they built it. So is
Yeah,
Australia, so is New Zealand, so is Canada. They are on other people's land.
that's right. That's right.
And
And even though they try to take accountability, it's so falls so short.
and 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 with the US, it is now becoming so blatant that what they say and what the policies they play, kind of play tricks with in the background are so vastly different
Hmm.
that it's almost like, after you've killed millions across Vietnam and Iraq and many other countries across the globe, then you
Hmm.
talk of rules based order and human rights and democracy and liberty and fraternity is a bit rich, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I mean, so what has happened, Trina, in the past, almost like it was happening, but in the past 1 month, it has become so very, it is kind of sped up this whole crashing of the hegemony. Now,
Yes.
no one from a European country with white skin and yellow hair, honestly, can preach sanctimoniously about human rights, ever,
Ever again. I mean,
ever.
they never did have a right to. It was just everybody
But
was
they
so afraid.
tried to, that, we were civilizing the world and we are bringing civilization and this development and progress and growth and all the nice facades.
Mm-hmm.
But after this, after the headless bodies of babies, literally, and fathers crying with the bodies and having to hold up their dead babies to prove they're dead,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
Biden questions the numbers.
exactly. Well, there are, they've been using Israel as they do all countries,
Yeah,
um, to um, practice their butchery. Um,
yeah,
the West has been trying to get a foothold in the Middle East
yeah, for a long
forever,
time, long
forever.
time.
Yeah,
And
and
they're
what I find,
building the canal, right? They're building
yeah,
the new canal, which is to
yeah,
go right through Gaza, so they need the land.
exactly.
And how better to get the land but use Hamas? What Hamas did was atrocious, but that came after so many years of constant battering that
Hmm.
somewhere at some point there will be an uprising, just
Well,
like the
what?
Jews rose up in the Warsaw Ghetto.
Yeah. Well, Hamas was also a Israeli created, U.S.
Yep,
created
yep, yep.
organization, just like ISIS.
Israeli supported.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the part that everybody, so they always seem to forget
mm,
that it is it is a game plan that has been perpetuated over and over and over again. And the interesting part is that Netanyahu was already up for crimes, for
yes,
you know they were about to indict him, and then all
yeah.
of a sudden, let's do it now.
And
He
and
they Yeah,
and this is something ridiculous, isn't it? And really not believable that
yeah,
Israel, with its super high tech surveillance mechanism, which can apparently find out one lone Hamas in a refugee camp of thousands, didn't know about this attack. Like
total
really?
total BS. It's To me that's just a complete false flag.
That's like a story to, and then you put your own civilians on the front line, and then
Hmm.
that becomes an excuse for you
Well, one
to
of
do
the
what you always wanted to do.
exactly, one of the Israeli hostages even said that the IDF were shooting other Israelis
Yes,
during
yes.
crossfire because they have some type of
Take no
I,
hostages.
yeah, take no
Take no hostage.
yeah, hostages ideology, which is barbaric and brutal in itself. But I
And and this whole thing is doubly disturbing because what you're really doing is weaponizing the
hmm
trauma, the very real trauma of the Jews,
hmm
weaponizing it, using it as a tool by imperial colonialists for expropriating and grabbing land
hmm
from people who have done nothing to you,
nothing.
who were not your persecutors and your mentors,
Hmm.
but who just happen to have a different skin color, so you can dehumanize and turn them into the typical language of dehumanization and fascism,
Right.
and then see that as an excuse to do away with a whole population.
Yeah.
And these words have been so embedded in the propaganda of the West that people in the West, with white skin, look at people with brown skin as, oh, somewhat savages. Oh, they can always rise up in terror as
Yeah.
terrorists
That's right.
because this has been so built in. And they don't realize that for us who have been colonized, the people with white skin color, pose a larger problem
Historically, it's always
historically.
it's
But we
always been.
haven't allowed that. We haven't allowed that to build our narrative and control our mind.
Yeah. It's what it is that we have a long history because people of color, people of indigenous people live by a certain a different standard of rules
Yes.
and existence
Yes. Yes.
that we don't truly understand how anyone human can be so heartless and barbaric. But I was having an interesting conversation with a fellow thinker, and we were really examining the culture that they have of violence,
Yes.
and that's embedded in and started in Europe, and
Yeah.
where they can so easily butcher each other
Yeah.
with impunity, and how much trauma that created, and fear that created. And then all of these different colonies, Australia you mentioned, United States, wherever they went, they sent their worst, they sent their
Yeah.
sickest
Yes. Yes.
to to to
Yes.
because they were prisoners, they were
In,
um, church people,
yes.
uh, whatever, missionaries.
Yeah.
They really didn't have the capacity to feel. They
Yeah.
were broken,
Yeah.
and that's who has built the
And
foundation of these
and
other countries.
I can't remember who, but one of the colonialists once said that these outposts, the colonies, whether it's Africa or Asia or India or wherever, were
Hmm.
actually their safety valves, where they sent out, like you said, their worst, so
Hmm.
that their country internally would stay safe. So go get, rape,
Hmm.
loot, plunder, do whatever, do it
Yeah.
outside
It-
of our, and this became so much of a. I mean, when they came to India, India's GDP was 23% of the global GDP. Okay, I'll share the link to the talk that Shashi
I would
Tharoor
love it.
gave in Oxford.
Yeah.
I should have, and India's GDP was 23% of the global GDP when the British came. They
Mm.
were so astounded by the riches and the spices and the gold and the hospitality, because in one of our Sanskrit saying is Atithi Deva Bhava, which literally means a guest is God.
Hmm.
Atithi is guest, Deva is God, and Bhava is like. A guest is like God. So
Mm.
anyone who comes to any Indian homes, known or unknown, will be treated with absolute sanctity and respect and hospitality. And that's what the Indians extended to the people. And the West saw this as weakness because they
Yeah.
see kindness as
Exactly.
weakness. They
Exactly.
see kindness as weakness, hospitality as vulnerability, and riches not to be shared and understood but looted.
Exploitation and exploited, and
And
women
it,
exploited. Women. This concept of
was,
rape, pillage, and burn is uniquely European. You know,
yes,
and that's not how. A lot of people say, well, tribes in Africa and tribes in other countries, they fought, but
yeah,
we didn't fight that way. We
sorry,
absorbed in
yeah,
the people who lost the battle.
I've,
They became a part of the new community, or the winning community.
yeah,
They were married. Um, they may have served a certain time in a level of servitude, but it wasn't this brutality. You
yeah,
know, and I'm so glad you mentioned Africa, because one of the things that people don't realize, the hegemonic technique is create chaos in every corner possible
yeah,
to distract from what they really want. And in the DRC right now, Dominic
yeah,
uh, Republic of Congo, there's a genocide happening there for the cobalt.
yes, DRC is in a mess, and the people who, uh, like I said, the sanctimonious righteousness of the West is gone now.
Mm.
I mean,
Oh,
it's gone. It's not even worth mentioning. But
mhm,
without getting into us then divide, what is really happening is this immense expropriation by a certain kind of hegemonic power has led
mhm,
to not only expropriation of land but associated ecocide, genocide, epistemicide. You're wiping out people, their libraries, their universities. You're killing their knowledge system.
exactly.
You're killing all that learning. You're
Hmm.
wiping out immeasurable treasures of
And history,
universities and
and his,
history
and
and
history.
history. And so
This,
when you put
oh, go ahead.
all of this together, it is it is kind of mind-boggling that the empire, because of the narrative powers it had through its different propaganda machines, just went from being in physical empires to being this form of neocolonialism controlled through technology and big data and big oil and big money and big tech and all of that. And you see a combination of all of that playing out in Palestine. I mean, the technological warfare, the
Yeah,
dropping of the bombs. I mean, by heaven's sake.
it's been the same thing on repeat for so long, and they've been able to cover themselves and claim there was some other entity that made them do it, but that is just not going to work anymore.
No,
It,
and
it,
it's it's not even passing off as a narrative anymore.
no,
Anything that comes out of there is now coming with so much of even so is met with so much of skepticism from within those same countries that it
no.
is imploding inside, even as it tries to destabilize
Hmm.
other parts of the world, because
Yes,
hegemony feeds on destabilization, on
that's right.
keeping people divided. Divisiveness is one of the tactics, key
That's right.
tactics. Divide and rule was Britain's key tactic in India.
Hmm. Everywhere,
Divide and rule everywhere. I mean,
everywhere.
that was their modus operandi everywhere.
Yeah, the masters of manipulation and coercion by any means necessary, um,
And
whether it's with false lies
so
of money, gold, but or
everything,
just
everything.
everything.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was in London and I was walking around in the British Museum. There was a couple, I think, not British maybe, but definitely European, a
Mm-hmm.
white skin, yellow hair variety. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they were telling me, oh, I don't know what they thought and why they were telling me. They were showing me something, and that was something from India, okay? And they were showing me that, the British Museum has so many of these, you should take a look. I said, yeah, I know they have so many of these because they have been brought over from my country. They should ideally not even be here.
Mm-hmm. They're so proud of their thievery.
And
Look at
uh,
God Almighty.
and I discovered after that the word loot, which is actually a Hindi word, became an English word after the British invaded and looted India and actually got included in the Oxford Dictionary. It is actually a Hindi word. Loot
Oh,
means to plunder.
I had no idea.
It was
See,
it, it's just a Hindi word. So we say loot lena. Loot lena means plunder. That's a Hindi word, very old. I mean, a Sanskrit root Hindi word. But because the British looted so much of our wealth, that it became an English word and got included in the Oxford Dictionary after their invasion
yeah.
as an English word. It's not even an English word.
Hmm. My goodness.
So the all in all, what this is showing is, I think, Palestine, by its very existential crisis, is holding up the mirror to everything all at once in a kind of a tsunami of, you know, a tsunami of pain, that everything that the empire can do is being done to us right here, right now, in the full glare of the public and social media, even as the world is watching. And it
Absolutely.
is, I mean, everything that was hidden has become so, so very revealed, literally and metaphorically.
So, with that said, and with our time
Yes,
dwindling, what
yes.
do you think? How would you direct the rest of the world? What do we do collectively?
First is completely to eschew the divisive narrative of separation that has been created so far, and truly, truly, truly imbibe and feel into our very deep interconnectedness. Like, I think it was one of the MPs in the UK Parliament who said, an Israeli baby's cry and a Palestinian baby's cry sound the same to me.
Mm,
Why do they sound different to you?
that's right.
So, if we can just hold on to that, that we are not different. Everything else is superficial. The skin color, the hair color, the shape of the eye, the shape of the nose doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right.
Everything underneath that is just so same. And can we stop plundering each other? And can the cultures meet, not to clash and not to, not to clash and compete, but to really, really cooperate and collaborate? Can the cultures meet? I think
Yeah.
it's possible.
Yes. If for me, I think it's time to trash everything we've learned from
Yes.
colonial powers and truly decolonize history, truly decolonize medicine,
Yeah.
truly decolonize everything that they brought because it's impure. It is tainted with 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 violence and um, with like you said, a divide and conquer agenda. So it must no longer be trusted.
Yeah.
That's what I am encouraging people to do, along with going deeply inside of themselves to reconnect with that power that they have within themselves. Because that separation that we've talked about a few times is how they get a foothold into our psyche and into
Yeah.
our hearts to
Yeah.
create the fear and
Yeah.
terror. But when you are deeply connected with yourself, there's not much that can shake
Yeah.
your foundation. So, you know, trash the old, reconnect to self, and look at ways to unify at all times because we are not separate. We
Yeah.
bleed the same, like you said. We breathe the same, and yeah, we no longer can afford to be so weak-minded.
Yeah.
You know, we need to fortify our minds, our hearts, our mind, body, spirit,
Yeah.
so that we can stop being the pawns
Yeah.
in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time to kick the board over because
Yeah.
the board is bloody
Yeah.
and it doesn't serve anybody but those who are put the pieces down in the first place. So, anyways,
Thank
I have to jump
you.
on the call with a client, and I'm so glad.
But
Even
we did
though
this. We
we
did
did it,
this.
it was
Yes.
chaotic.
Yes.
So, in 2 weeks' time, everybody will
See you again.
be back on,
Yes.
and I'm sure we'll have even more to talk about, even maybe the same thing. I'm not sure. It's just so much is developing. Everybody stay curious. Everybody stay calm. And everybody keep thinking critically, the three C's. And
Yeah.
we can get through this together.
Yeah.
Okay?
I love that, Trina. And
Yeah.
have a little compassion for everyone. Thank
That's
you.
another C. We can add it. Four C's.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. See you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Okay.